One of the things we do, we spend a lot of time spending money on clothes for our children and for ourselves, food, vacations, and we also spend time with our health. But we really don't think about our learning environment and how that affects our mental health and how that affects our grades in school for our children, our students, and how it affects our learning at our job, right? And so some of us are entering in the workplace and some of us are leaving the workplace. Some of us are retired, and we have to continue to learn and to study and use our brain because our brain is a muscle. And when we build a learning community, whether it's at home, in the workplace, or we make it a part of our life, that muscle keeps moving, it keeps working, and we're able to access information when we need it. So one of the things is like, how do we learn? What's the theory of learning? Well, in school, you'll hear about multi-intelligence, where they talk about, oh, we learn with our hands, with our eyes, or by doing. And then there's a lot of different names that they throw around. But the first learning community we have is in the home. And it's a collective way of learning. We learn from everyone and everything that's around us. And because we're social creatures, we replicate what we see. So monkey see, monkey do. That's what we do. So if our home environment is not as well constructed to learning, and that slows down the process. If our work environment is not constructive for learning, that slows down the process. So what can I do in my everyday life to have that learning community everywhere I go? Because I'm not going to have my bedroom or my closet or my fuzzy slippers everywhere I go. I can have my fuzzy slippers everywhere I go if I make sure that I take it with me. So if I am at work and I need to change from my shoes to my fuzzy slippers so I can get comfortable to read something for work, maybe I can do that. But here's some techniques that we can do and use. One of the things we can do is we can get up and stretch, move around, get the blood circulating. So if you're here right now with me, just move your hands in a circle right here, wiggle your toes, move your hand around. That will get the blood circulating. That will bring oxygen into your body and into your brain. It gets away nervous energy. So if you have a student who's sitting down that has to take a standardized test, if they're taking a standardized test, they're not going to be able to jump up and move around or whatnot. But they can move their hands slowly in their desk. They can wiggle their toes. If you're at work and you have to read something real quick because it's your job, what you can do is step aside, wiggle your toes, move your fingers. That gets the blood flowing. If you're sitting at your desk, stand up, wiggle your toes, move your fingers around, get the blood flowing. Then take whatever you need to read or learn. Then take that. You just opened your brain. You filled it with a lot of oxygen. Now you can look at what you need to read and learn. There's something called physical response theory, and it relies on muscle memory. If you put something physical with something cognitive in the brain, it will save in two different places. That way, when you have to recall that memory, your brain access it in two places. The other thing is, if you lay down and you're laying in a laying position and you're reading a book or studying, when you have to recall that information, you have to be in the same spot because your body and your brain's going to align to whatever it's used to. So what you would like to do, what it would be better to do, is practice some of the relaxation techniques, practice some of the physical theory where you move before you have to study so you can move again to recall that information. One of the things I do when I have to study is that I sit, even though I'm sitting in my bed, I sit in an upright position. because I have to sit in an upright position for a test. Okay, I wiggle my toes so that when I have to recall that information, I'm wiggling my toes. Some people, especially our young men in high school and in college, they start tapping the pens or tapping the fingers. If you're a parent or a friend, give them a quarter. They can rub a quarter and it won't be taken from them if they have to take the ACT or the SAT. They can rub that, okay? And that will get the blood flowing. It will bring oxygen to the brain and it'll cause the body to recall the information a lot quicker. How do you move obstacles and negative obstacles out of your space so that you can learn? Whether it's reading the Bible, reading something for work. One of the things that I've always said to my students, turn the cell phone off, tell your family and friends that you are having me time and that you will call them back. The thing about them respecting that time, if you say you're gonna call them back afterwards, because you said you would do that. So that way, people will respect that me time because they'll say, oh, she's having me time or he's having me time at this specific time, and they'll get back to me. And they'll start respecting that time and not bothering you at that time. So if you have a child, a spouse, a friend, grandchild that needs to study, start setting up me time for that person and say, hey, I'm gonna take that cell phone from you, I'm gonna turn that TV off, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna sit down and have the me time, right? One of the big things that we have is, I remember my grandmother used to say, oh, no music before 12 o'clock, right? So if I wanted to listen to music or TV, I couldn't do anything before church. So if I didn't go to church or anything like that, I wasn't doing anything before 12 o'clock. And I still have that kind of pattern in my life. On Sunday, that's study time, right? That's time we sit around, we talk, we study, we disconnect from as many things as possible. And we have that family time where we can share information, laugh, and talk. That is also a good time to put in some extra study time. The thing about it is, if you set and you commit yourself to 30 minutes at a time, a day, to learn a new skill, whether it's for pleasure, for work, for church, or so that you can help someone else, just be consistent. All right, if you are consistent in putting in that time, that positive time, the obstacles will start being less and less. But if you say, okay, I'm gonna read this book today, or I'm gonna study this today, or I'm gonna practice music today, and then you don't do it tomorrow or the other day, it's just like if you're playing basketball. Okay, you shoot a basket, you didn't make it. But if you consistently practice putting that basketball in the hoop, you're gonna make it eventually. And then if you repeat that motion, you're gonna make it. Same thing with using your brain and setting up a learning community. You set the time of day. And then there's a list of foods that you can eat and a list of foods that you really shouldn't eat. Okay, now I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a doctor, but you can find that information on the website, or you can speak with a nutritionist or a nurse. All right, you can speak with Miss Della Williams, and she can give you a list of foods that you can intake that will help with recalling information and memory. You need to look at your stimulants and things that relax you. And so you want to kind of like regulate that and see which one helps you and promote learning and memory, and comprehension. Study. When it's time to recall that information, you really can't take a glass of wine to take a driver's test or a glass of wine to like do surgery or something. So you might want to look at something else, a different type of relaxation, physical relaxation that you go through so that you can become relaxed and the information can stay in with you longer. Other things, you can play mental games like math mental games or reading and writing like word search and Scrabble. Those type of old school mental games help recall memory and help you understand, like build vocabulary and stuff like that. So moving obstacles out of your way so that you can learn better is just be consistent. Okay, be consistent. And then some of the physical and mental activities that we can do so that we can learn, and emotional activities. One of the things I've always, and I try to do, is not to fuss or yell or scream or put in negative emotions before you send someone off to work or before you send someone off to school or before you send someone off to take a test. Okay, so if you know that your grandkids or a friend is getting ready to take a test or something, and yes, trash needs to go out, and yes, clothes need to be washed, and yes, they overspent on their checking account, now it's coming from your checking account, and yes, you promised to go over grandma's house, but they have a test to take. That's not the time to talk about whatever that problem is, because now their brain is processing all that stuff you're saying, and it's taking away from test time. Geraldine University, we go over test taking skills. We go over setting up a learning community at home and at school and in the workplace so that you could be at your top performance. It is not a nonprofit. It is for profit. Their fees, but we try to keep our fees minimum. And it's more of a mentorship. It's not tutoring. It's a mentorship. We set goals and we help students and we kind of track them to where they want to go. So my specialty is in reading comprehension and language acquisition. So if we have a student that needs to boost their reading speed or reading comprehension to pass a standardized test, whether it's for regular K through 12, trying to pass the SAT or the with the LSAT to get into grad school, the GMAT and stuff like that. We start wherever the student's baseline is, and then we develop vocabulary, we develop reading speed and reading comprehension, and we push for that. If there's students or adults with learning disabilities, not all the learning disabilities we can support, but there's some, and we have some techniques that we can work with the student or the adult so that they can manage their disabilities and strengthen the abilities so that those abilities will overshadow any disabilities and they will be able to be successful in school and in the workplace. We are a new company, so we invite you to come and like our webpage.